I'm all alone now, sir.
Jeremy, on the Starship Enterprise, no one is alone.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Fully Functional, a TNG podcast. I'm Maggie, joined by Jeff and Dory.
Yo!
Jeff and I are huge Star Trek nerds, and Dory is a Star Trek novice, and we are taking her on her first journey through Star Trek The Next Generation. Today we're discussing the Season 3 episode, The Bonding. Original air date October 21st, 1989. I was about to say 2020. I don't know why.
Neither do I. That's not even this year.
Yeah, this year isn't even 2020. All right, as always, we're going to turn it over to Dory for the recap.
Okay.
This one's real.
I never want to watch this episode again.
Mm-hmm. You see why I usually skip it.
Yes. I'm angry. Listen, okay, here's the thing. I'm a big Troy fan. However, this was not her time to shine.
I think she did
tried.
okay in this episode, to be honest.
I didn't like her. I mean it in the sense of I do not think what she said is helpful.
Okay.
That's it, more of it. I love Troy. I'm always happy to see her. I'm always happy to see her get like a more featured role. However, I do not agree with the stuff she said in this episode. Some of it. Some of the stuff she said in this episode. Okay, so I guess recap. Sorry, I am angry. This is going to be a messy recap.
You were kind of right about the premise of the episode, about like the inciting incident.
Yeah. So Worf and some archaeologists are on this planet and they're investigating markings on this cave, and then Troy gets distressed and she's like, oh no, like we should beam them up, and then Worf is like, beam us up, emergency. So they are beamed up to sickbay, and it's Worf, two guys, and a dead lady whose name is Marla Astor. She was the archaeologist. So as it turns out, an explosive device went off in the tunnel, and this was due to there were the race on the planet called Koinonians, and they were like had multi-generational war until they like just ended it. Like they ended each other, I guess.
They ended up like just all dying.
Yeah. So the explosive device was like related to a war from all that time ago.
They were like leftover booby traps, basically.
Yeah. So as it turns out, Marla has a 12-year-old son, Jeremy, who has to be told about his mother's death. So Worf immediately asks to go with because he led the team down there. So he was there when it all happened, and he feels bad. So Picard is like, no, I will do it because he's in charge. And he said, he's like, I don't agree with the children policy on this ship. I don't think they should be here because their parents are making the decision. I'm sort of summarizing. He didn't say this like word by word, but he basically doesn't agree with the child policy because the adults sign on for this danger and whatever. We know what the stakes are, but the kids do not. And they end up suffering for adults stuff, sort of. So him and Troy go to tell Jeremy about his mother's death. Jeremy does not flinch. Jeremy takes it weirdly well. I mean, everybody has a different response to death, but Jeremy takes it remarkably well.
They kind of explain that with Wes later on, that like
yeah,
in Starfleet they prepare you for this, and he just kind of acted how he thought people would like expected him to act, which was like really mature about it.
Yeah, so Jeremy is chill. He asks how And they explain that, it was an explosion and she died instantly. Jeremy's father is also dead. He had died 5 years previous to an infection. And so then Jeremy goes, "I'm all alone now, sir." And then Picard goes, "Jeremy, on the Starship Enterprise, no one is alone. No one." Then we go to Riker, who's drinking a delicious-looking pink drink.
Yeah, it does look really good.
Then we have a full scene that is exclusively close-ups between him and Data.
Yeah.
It's not a bad scene. I actually wrote, I think most of their exchange, it's fairly good. We'll touch on that later. But it's mostly just Data thing, he didn't really know Marla. Therefore, he doesn't, feel much. And, should that matter? And if it's just, someone who died, should you not feel stuff anyways? And, yeah, Riker does a good job of explaining, your people you're close to are going to hurt more, but if more people felt bad about people's dying, then maybe we wouldn't be in the situation we are, where people are less empathetic to other people's suffering. So Geordi also finds a bunch of more explosive devices from the wars, but they've recently been pulled from the ground and diffused. I don't know what that honestly, I thought something was going to come more of that, but not really.
I think it's implied that those energy aliens did it.
Yeah.
I kind of thought that, but then I was like, but they don't really sort of make any kind of... I found the whole thing of this kind of confusing.
To be fair, they also didn't make the connection as to why Troy at the beginning could sense that there was danger coming, because
Yeah.
She shouldn't have been able to sense that, and then you find out, oh, the energy aliens knew, but you have to put that together yourself.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just a plot hole that I wrote at the beginning and then realized halfway through, oh, it's not a plot hole. They just never talk about it.
Yeah, spoilers, there's 8 energy aliens in this.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, if you haven't watched the episode yet that we're talking about, that, why are you listening to us if you haven't seen it? Whatever.
Hey, people do that. That's
Yeah.
okay. Listen if you want to listen. Yeah, spoilers to the recap.
Yeah, you don't have to watch this. You don't have to watch the episodes, but you should come in expecting spoilers. We don't hold anything back in these discussions.
Yeah. Okay, so then Worf has a talk with Troy because Worf is angry and he wants to, I guess, he has a bonding service or something with Jeremy.
There's a Klingon bonding ritual sort of thing.
Yeah. And Troy is sort of don't sort of overdo it with him right now because, he needs to, sort of this part I understand with Troy, where she's basically, he needs to, because it would feel weird, getting, sharing different affection when his mother's just passed away, and he needs to sort of do it at his own pace, which is yeah, totally agree there. So then we have Jeremy, who's watching home movies with a weird, I don't know if this bothered anybody else, but every time he watched these home videos on his iPad thing, I could see a reflection of him that was weird.
Yes.
I didn't notice that, to be honest.
What I found much weirder about it how old was that kid when those videos were made? Because his father died 5 years ago, and his father's the one filming them, and he looks exactly the same age.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
it's really
he should
weird.
be 6 at the oldest.
Yeah, so then Worf comes in and to speak to Jeremy, and Jeremy says he learned about Klingons in school, and then I wrote, Worf, read the room, because man, everybody loved to just tell Jeremy over and over again that his mom was dead in this episode, and Worf just goes, did they also teach you that every Klingon hopes to die in the line of duty as your mother did? And I'm like, Worf, This isn't it. This isn't it. Or
Yeah, he doesn't handle this well. Because I'm like, dude, what? He seems angry at the kid. Because he's like, we have to honor your mother. And it's like, we have to give her death meaning. It's like, dude, fucking chill.
Yeah, I don't remember when in the episode this was, but Wes has a nice little conversation with Riker about it's never, it doesn't get easier telling people.
Oh yeah, on the bridge.
Their loved ones, and it's a hard thing. It's not something anybody should really get used to.
Mm-hmm.
And they suggest maybe Wes should speak to Jeremy, which I don't think is a bad idea. However, I do think that Wes should decide if he's going to speak to Jeremy and when he's going to speak to Jeremy if he chooses so.
That's why you're upset at Troy.
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah, that ending bit, right? Yeah, I have a lot of problems with that. Yeah,
I was angry. Yeah. So then Wes has once again a very nice conversation, but with his mom this time, about his father's death and how like sometimes he can't remember what he looks like, and then sometimes it's like super vivid and he can remember when like Picard came to tell him the news. And it's a very sweet moment with him and Beverly.
There are just some real fantastic like pairing scenes in this episode altogether. There's like the dialogue is so respectfully written in most cases, and like it really gives power to these characters who normally aren't in this kind of circumstance.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of good conversations spread out through this that's very sensitive, which is nice, which is unfortunate with the way that it ends, that it's gets me very angry, because the conversation Troy and Picard, with Troy and Worf, Wes and Riker, Data and Riker, and Wes and Beverly, and then like even Worf, not in this version, but Worf and Jeremy even have like a nice moment.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So then they find some kind of like signal on the planet, and Geordi gets like an unusual magnetic flux reading from the antimatter containment pods. And then we see Jeremy's back on the iPad, and in the so his mom, so Marla in the video is wearing a pink shirt and a vest. And then from just like past him, you can see fucking pink shirt, and then it like focuses and it's his mom, and which I wrote, Ghost Marla. I was like, are we going horror movie route? Like, what is happening? Honestly, I think like the actress did like a good job in this role, because it's supposed to be like, it almost felt Stepfordy in a weird way. Yeah, so Ghost Marla wants her and Jeremy to go. That's what I'm just going to refer to her as. I know she's not actually a ghost, but that's what I have written her as, because we don't find out what her deal is later until later. So Ghost Marla and Jeremy, she wants him to go down to the planet, and then Worf comes in, and Worf is like, what the fuck? So alerts the bridge. We get security coming around and following around to see what the fuck Ghost Marla's doing there.
They don't try to stop her at all, which is weird. They just let her walk
kind of
around.
follow her. Yeah, they just kind of follow. And I wrote in my notes, oh wow, Jeremy's gonna need all the therapy because of all the trauma in this episode. Oh my god, yeah, this is like truly just gonna make things more confusing and worse for him. So yeah, Troy also says to him a billion times, like, your mom is dead, bro. Like, this is not your mom. In which, like, I feel like there could have been a bit more,
a better way to say that.
Then they were not, like, the amount of, like, this could be a drinking game, this episode, the amount of time somebody tells Jeremy that his mom is dead. This truly could be a drinking game. Yeah, so then like Ghost Marla makes like their quarters into like the house that's in the home videos, including the cat Patches,
who's fucking adorable.
Yeah, Patches is very cute.
Also, what a fucking name! Like, did you pull that out of like the stereotype cat name hat?
Yeah, well, I think it's because it's a calico.
Oh no, it is
so
for sure.
So a kid would have named them Patches because they got colored patches on them.
I mean, maybe, but I mean, it's not too different than naming a dog Rover.
Yeah.
Aww.
I mean, there's no reason to be creative with the name, to be honest.
No, that's true.
So, yeah, it turns out Ghost Marla is getting, like, energy or something from the antimatter. I don't know. And so they, like, sever the energy or something, and then, like, this, like, funnel thing from the planet flies up and turns into some kind of blue light that like flashes around the ship. I don't know, it's like getting information. And then Geordi says, it's looking over everything, Commander. Going to school. Let's just hope it doesn't blow us to Kingdom Come while it's figuring out how to blow us to Kingdom Come. So, thank you, Geordi.
And then I think they don't really do anything with that.
Yeah,
that it's like learning shit from their computer.
Yeah.
No, it was. I think it was just to have like a thing before the commercial.
Yeah. Yeah. But they don't do anything with it, which is my point. like afterwards.
Yeah, so basically it's like revealed that Ghost Marla is actually like energy, because on the planet there was 2 species, one of energy, one of matter, and the matter one were the Cointonians or whatever, and they were like war, and then but the energy survived, I guess.
This is the one rando species in all of Star Trek, I think, that I just do not ever remember the name of because they're not important in any way.
Yeah, and they like want Jeremy to like, I don't know, is it because like the explosive blew up his mom, so they want to take care of him?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but they like, it's kind of selfish, and Troy points out like, what are you gonna do with him? Like, he's gonna grow. How are you gonna like how is he gonna have friends? You know, have like a life, career, whatever. So then they're like, oh yeah, I guess that's like kind of fair. And then they call Wes in, who to basically like shit on Wes a little bit.
Well,
which
to make him have a very public therapy session.
Yes, I wrote in my notes, I don't know if Troy's got certification, but it should be taken away just from this scene.
Yeah.
So basically, they really put him on the spot because like none of this is his choice. I think they tell Worf to go get him. So they call Wes in, and they all start like, between Troy and Picard, they just start asking him questions. Oh, they first explain to like, Picard says to Jeremy, oh, Wes's dad was like killed young when he was younger than you were. It's like, bro, it's Wes's shit. Let him tell it in his own way. And then Troy's like, Wes, and how did that all make you feel? And I'm like, whoa, that's like a lot. And so Wes, like, yeah, in front of this kid he doesn't know, and in front of Picard, he's now forced to like be like, oh yeah, I fucking hated Picard. I had a lot of feelings and anger towards him when his father was first killed, because Picard led the mission. And why did Picard live? And his father died. And then Troy takes that to be like, Jeremy, you must be feeling the exact same way. Worf is here. Aren't you mad that Worf came back instead of your mom?
Yeah. There's also never any indication that he was mad at Worf.
Yeah, nothing. He was pretty chill with Worf for the most part. And then like, yeah, she puts this whole like, speaks for him, gives him this whole thing, and he's a child, so like he's impressionable. And then yeah, so out of nowhere he starts to cry, and then like yells at Worf, why didn't he die or whatever. And I'm like, Worf does not deserve this. Like, Troy, what the fuck?
Yeah.
And yeah, so then, but it's solved very quickly, because then like Wesley's like, yeah, I'm not like angry anymore, but he felt like he had to be brave, he had to be mature, I guess, for like himself, because he, you know, and I guess for his mom also. I mean, it was just the two of them after that. And I hate that they put him in this position.
Yeah.
And they forced him, because like Wes is such like, I don't know if I necessarily call him a people pleaser, but he like wants to impress Picard. He obviously like likes Troy, and he like, they all work together for a while now, or they've known each other for a while now. And so like, he doesn't want to let them down. So what's he going to do? Be like, I don't want to talk about this in front of Jeremy right now, as this is like a child I like barely know.
Yeah.
So it just felt really invasive and really mean, honestly.
Yeah.
And really shitty.
It seems like not many people have a regard for how Wes would be feeling.
Yeah. Plus, just because Wes had that, you know, anger towards Picard doesn't mean Jeremy would. Mm-hmm. Because like, this was, it feels like a completely different situation. Like, Worf was down, like they were down there on an archaeology mission.
Yeah.
Like, it was, if something happened down there, like that was an explosion that had nothing to do with them. It was like supposed to be a very safe mission. I don't know what the mission was with like Picard and Jack Crusher, but it feels like, just from their characters, that it would be more of like an active mission.
Yeah, it was more dangerous to begin with.
Yeah, versus, you know, an archaeologist going down to study something. Like it seems like very different cases.
Yeah.
So it really does suck especially like for most of the episode, Troy's given really good advice and said things that like, yeah, you know, she even goes against the exact thing. She's like, oh yeah, like Jeremy has to sort of figure out how he feels. He's going to have to face it. But then she like forces him to face it.
Yeah.
And so basically in the end, though, Worf offers to do the bonding ceremony with Jeremy. Jeremy says yes. And then it is cute. It's a short little scene, but they do the little ceremony in the little blue room where they light candles, and Jeremy wears a vest that's much too big for him, and Worf gives him a sash, and it's very cute and it's very sweet, and I liked that a lot. Now, all that being said, does Jeremy ever become another reference in the future? Because
No.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Sorry, friend.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to have that more of a reference.
Because I kind of, like, in my prediction for this, I knew it would be, like, one and done. But, like, because of the way the episode ended, I was like, oh, am I wrong? Like, that they're full out going to reference in the future? No, unfortunately, I was right. But for a second, I was like, oh,
they don't
cute.
really explain what happens to Jeremy, because the way Worf puts it, he says, you're going to be part of my family now and all that. And it implies that he's adopting him.
Yeah.
But he does not. They're just, like, spiritually bonded.
Also, before we go any further, I would also like to welcome back a segment that we haven't seen for a while, which we've called The Boy Corner. There were five times someone said the boy in this episode.
That's quite
But
a
it wasn't
few.
in reference to Wes.
It wasn't in reference to us. Yeah, it was reference to Jeremy. But still, Boy Corner returns.
I'm sorry, Wes, you have been retired as the boy, and we have replaced you with a new applicant.
Yeah.
The artist formerly known as the boy. Or the ensign formerly known as the boy.
Oh, acting ensign, thank you very much.
Sorry.
Yeah, so we kind of threw you off with the tidbit last time, because this episode is like, it's not a Worf-centric episode at all, pretty much.
It's a Jeremy centric episode, and like I was trying to figure out who the episode was focused on for the majority of it, and realized very quickly that it wasn't.
Yeah, but I thought they did a good job of getting the crew involved. It's more about
I agree. It is an ensemble episode.
Yeah, to me it was kind of, I saw it as more about like just how the crew is dealing with this and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I thought I don't know why the aliens had to be a thing.
Oh, okay, so that was...
Oh, is it like remnants from like a rewrite or something?
Different, actually. It's not remnants from a rewrite, it's the result of a rewrite. And okay, so here's the thing. Let me give you the backstory on this episode in general. This episode was a very welcome change for the series, for a lot of different reasons. This is Michael Pillar's first episode as showrunner. So he's the new showrunner going forward. I mentioned that they had a new showrunner at the beginning of the season, but it's a guy who only lasted 4 episodes. He's gone now. Michael Pillar has taken over. Michael Pillar already had like production credits on the show, so like he was there. He was a part of it. So it's not like, oh, it was going to some like weird guy, but no, it was going to somebody who was well known within the crew and whatnot. And Pillar did not have a script to work on when he started as showrunner. He was like, okay, well, we've started, but nothing was prepared for this week. So we're like, shit, what do we do? So we went into what's called the slush pile, which is the pile of like submitted spec scripts, basically. And this particular submitted spec script was submitted by a name who, Maggie, you will find very familiar. His name is Ronald D. Moore.
Ah.
Oh, yes. I'm familiar with him also.
You would be, yes. He's quite a prolific name in science fiction. He's responsible for the Battlestar Galactica series. He's responsible for other things, too, but he got his real big start in Star Trek, specifically in TNG, and then he went on to be one of the main people on the writing team for Deep Space Nine. And he was briefly in Voyager after that. He became known as the Klingon guy, so that's something that you'll see going forward. So Ronald D. Moore wrote this script, and it really resonated with Michael Pillar. He was extremely impressed with it. He loved the fact that it was, like, even though it wasn't like a specific character-focused piece, it dealt with a really sensitive subject in incredibly respectful way, and it was something that he could relate to as somebody who had lost family as well. And he really liked it, started working on it, said, you know what, we barely have to change this. This is fantastic. So, like, it got a rewrite, but it was going to be a pretty small one. And then Gene Roddenberry stepped in. Gene Roddenberry really didn't like the fact that people are dealing with death and it's difficult, because his argument is, well, people don't really have a difficult time dealing with death in the future. And I explained that back when we did Tasha Yar's death.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's not something that he was happy with, and he did a lot of pushing. Now, he doesn't have a lot of power in the show at this point. It's not that he gets a say, it's that he was extremely pushy about it. And when the creator of Star Trek comes out and starts pushing all of the producers to be like, no, this isn't working. This isn't good. We can't do this. Something, unfortunately, has to change. So that was when they wrote in the alien story for it. And the reason for that was that originally the way that Jeremy was escaping his problem was he recreated his mother in the holodeck.
That's what I was going to suggest.
Oh my god, that's so much better.
He started living out that fantasy instead. But the argument that Gene Roddenberry was making is, no, the kid is not going to have nearly that kind of difficulty dealing with death.
Has Gene Roddenberry never had... I mean, he's dead now, right?
Gene Roddenberry, yes, he died back in the 90s. Roddenberry was writing a story... Well, sorry, Roddenberry was writing Star Trek as a fictitious future in which we have grown beyond so many of these things that make us human now, that make life difficult, that are considered negative things in our lives. And unfortunately, a lot of these things, this is something that Michael Piller wrote quite a bit about later on, a lot of these things are problems when it comes to writing because they remove a lot of the drama that you can create between characters.
Yeah, Gene Roddenberry was writing for philosophy rather than entertainment.
Yes. He wasn't doing that at the beginning, back when he was doing the original series. He did have a vision. Like, I'm never gonna say that Roddenberry did not have this very positive vision of the future that he wanted to bring to television, and when he knew that it was popular, he definitely wanted to capitalize on that. But the 70s and the 80s really put that into a very different perspective for him, because he wrote this TV show. It was his only successful TV show. He had done other shows, but they were like, they did okay for a little while and then they were gone. So yeah, it was only his only successful TV show, and it started building a fandom after it went off the air, and it kind of blew him away. And the thing is, like, when the original series was running, by the time the third season came around, he had checked out. He was barely involved anymore because they were nearly canceled after the second season. So he was barely involved with the third season and the writing shows. But yeah, so the 70s comes along and he starts going to all of these conventions that are popping up, and the theory from the people who were closest to him, besides the drugs, because he was very much into cocaine, the theory is that he kind of got drunk on his own, on the
Influence?
like revering. Sorry?
Influence?
Yes. Yeah. It got overstated in a lot of cases. Not to say that it's not important. Like, Star Trek was very important in its original run as well. So he started to think that all of his ideas were great ideas, and like, he really did not like to take criticism on them, and he didn't take it very well. But he was also like, he didn't take it in a way that he would like get mad and storm off, but like he could work collaboratively. That wasn't the problem. The problem was that he believed himself as a visionary by that point.
He bought his own hype.
He absolutely did.
Okay, yeah.
It really is too bad, because for all of his flaws, his good ideas were very positive and very strong ideas that absolutely resonated with the people who are fans of Star Trek. Mm-hmm. And it really is sad that he couldn't see past those flaws before his death, because he was a very intelligent person, and there's a lot of things to respect about him. There's also a lot of things not to respect about him. He was a human in the end who was flawed. And it's important within Star Trek to keep flawed characters there to show that, just like Gene Roddenberry, nobody's perfect.
Yeah. I sort of, like, I don't mind if someone wants to write for philosophy instead of entertainment. That's your right. to do that. I'm still going to criticize it if it's boring or whatever. But
yes.
Also, I disagree with I've talked about this before, but I disagree with the philosophy that we will one day not have difficulty dealing with death.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. I think we might, like, I don't know, because there are cultures that, like, death isn't as traumatic for them because they have, like, certain practices and beliefs and stuff that, like, make them more comfortable with it. But it's still, like, not an easy thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, how long have humans existed for? Because, like...
as we are, 6,000 years.
Yeah.
10,000 years
that, like,
at the most.
And after all that time, like, we're still struggling. I think this is something that, like, it doesn't change.
Yeah.
Like the concept of death, like, people are going to die.
Yes.
Therefore, I don't think in the future you're going to have, like, a different, like, you're going to lose a connection to, like, a family member, a friend. Like, unless your, like, emotions disappear.
That's why I really liked Riker's line to Data.
Yeah, that's why, like, I like that part. Like, that truly is, like, my favorite part of the episode, to be honest.
I think a perfect example is the Klingons. To Klingons, death isn't a big deal. I mean, as long as you die the right way, you know?
Yes.
But that's also part of it, right? Like, if you don't die in the line of duty, or if you don't die in an honorable way, like, that's very difficult for your family members to deal with.
Yes, absolutely.
And even if you do die an honorable death and stuff, there's still all this ceremony and procedures and stuff around it, you know? It's not just a, like, it happened. Yeah, exactly.
We will see Worf in the future. I just want to point this out while Maggie's talking about this. We will see Worf in the future react to death in a way that shows he is still emotionally connected to it.
Yeah, and I think Klingons are still emotionally connected to it. Like,
they are. We'll see it from them too.
Yeah, like, they're glad that the person died in an honorable way, and they're glad that their spirit is released, to Sto-vo-kor or whatever, but, like, that still doesn't mean it's not hard.
Yes.
That still doesn't mean it's, like, not a difficult thing for them to deal with. Like, that's why they've created all of this, like, ceremony around it. That's why humans create this ceremony around it, you know?
Yep.
Like, at least, so I'm obviously speaking, like, from, Christian North American perspective about it, of, like, that's why you have funerals and stuff. Like, you have this whole procedure to help you deal with it. So I just disagree that it will never be a big deal. Like, I think it's always going to be a big deal. It might be a less traumatic experience, and we might be, like, more accepting of death, but it's never not going to be a big deal, I don't think.
Yeah. I don't think it will. I don't think it will change. Like, I think that's really, like, I don't know what the word is. I don't know how to describe it, but I think, like, Gene Roddenberry, in a certain way, that he thinks that we're going to, like, grow out of it. We shouldn't. This is also, like, a thing, like, we've talked about this, like, it's pain. It's part of being...
Loneliness.
Yeah, oh my God.
Sorry. Reference to Encounter at Farpoint.
Like, that's, like, the thing. I mean, they kind of mention that in this a little bit of, like, the joy and pain. Like, it's also, like, it's empathy, though, isn't it? Also, like, you can be sad for other people. You can be sad for yourself. Like, I truly think, like, you have to be a certain kind of person to think this is the part of us that will evolve. Because I don't think it ever will. I mean, people can change their, like, opinions on death, or, like, because I know there's a whole movement about, being death positive, which is, like, fine. I think it's just like a very
that's a mechanism to deal with a very hard thing,
Yeah, but it doesn't make things, like, easy. Well, it might make things easier for some people, but I don't think, like, a loss is going to be any easier in the future.
Yeah.
I mean, if you still have, like, an emotional connection to someone and then they die, like, that doesn't... Hell, I mean, think of it so, like, I mean, there's been celebrities when they die that, like, people get really upset over. I'm absolutely guilty of that. There's there's been quite a few, especially like stuff in the last year, people passing away from what have you. And, you know, we don't know them, but you have an emotional connection. As long as you have an emotional connection to someone, you're going to have a reaction to that. And I don't think that'll change. Whether like the level of reaction, but you're still going to feel sad in some respect. And I also, one of the things that I don't like with that the show did, which is pretty much of like the last bit, is to think that there's only one way to the one process of grieving. Like because Wesley had this experience, Jeremy is going to have the same one. When it's like, that's pretty, like, let people grieve in their own way.
Why weren't you the one who died?
Yeah.
It's a really weird thing. Like everybody reacts differently to stuff, and there shouldn't be like a step by step or like a you know, procedural of how people should feel grief. Just like let people feel their shit figuratively.
I think at least in our culture, there is like a lot of people go through a similar pattern, but you shouldn't assume like, because she's not assuming like a general pattern of things, she's assuming specifics. Yeah. She assumes that he is specifically mad at Worf.
Yeah, when like he's already spoken to Worf, and if he didn't like immediately have some kind of thing, I mean, obviously, once again, like I'm not an expert on grief, but like, yeah, he was very fine to talk to Worf and only got mad at him when Troy said, "Aren't you mad that Worf lived and your mom died?" Yeah. Like, what?
I feel more like Troy made him mad at Worf.
Right?
I kind of felt like the episode was losing steam by that point.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Like, I noticed about halfway through that because of the lack of a single character focus that was someone that I had already been connected to, I was starting to lose my interest a little bit, even though I liked the subject matter and I liked the direction they were going with it. And that scene there ended up snapping me back into it, but I also noticed how manipulative it was in the way that it did it.
Yeah. And the thing is like, to me, it kind of starts losing the thread, like, once the aliens come around.
Yes, agreed.
To then, because personally, I have no problem with sort of slice of life type stories and that sort of thing. Like, if it was just like a slice of life episode, like, I'd be cool with that.
Yeah. I think it's also a different, like, if they had done the holodeck stuff, I think it would have been, first of all, more like emotionally rich, but also like a different way than we've seen people use the holodeck before.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, like, I had all these thoughts about how to improve the episode, and actually my first one was, it's like, get rid of the aliens and make him like live a fantasy on the holodeck. Because
there is no conflict.
Yeah.
With the alien, truly, like, we don't even know what it is for majority of the time. And then it's only when, like, they don't even figure it out. Like, she tells them. She's like, oh, this is the situation. And it's like, oh.
And there is no conclusion. What? She's just like, she hears all this big speeches and stuff. And then she's like, makes a face that's like, oh, I get it. And then fucks off.
Yeah, doesn't even say anything. Just kind of is like, bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
It's almost like she wasn't a character. She was just a vessel for the plot to continue.
Yeah. And I think they could have, like, one of the things about the Wesley thing at the end, it's like they could have handled that a lot better. Like, my idea would be like, Wes, I know that you don't want to talk about this, but we have like a really serious situation here, and can you please help us with this? Like, I think it'll help. I know you don't want to, but please.
Or maybe just have Wesley speak with Jeremy on their own.
Yeah, make him make the decision.
It sucks because I love Wesley's dialogue in that scene so much.
Yes.
But it's powerful for him as a character, and he delivers it real well and real convincingly. And it's what brings that dialogue out that's the problem. And I'm just like, damn it!
Yeah, because again, I really like all the Wesley stuff here. And I think, to me, it seems like they're sowing the seeds of, like, Wes really is a person who just does what's expected of him. He's really, like, not doing... not that he's not doing things of his own accord, but I think it's like he just kind of, he thinks there's this path laid out for him and he's just taking it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're totally right, Dory, because like before like we started recording the podcast, I thought that I was like, wow, Troy actually did like a really good job in this episode. Like I thought what she had to say was very poignant and like actually good advice. But you're right, the way the ending was handled was like completely unacceptable.
Yeah, because like for the most part, yeah, no, like I love to see Troy, you know, doing her stuff, and I'm a big Troy fan.
Mm-hmm.
But that last scene, that just made me so angry, because it just like, I'm someone who I don't like to be told how to feel.
Mm-hmm.
I get like, if anything, like if that was me, I think I'd probably get very angry. I don't think I would have like,
yeah, like don't tell me how I feel.
Yeah, also, like something like grief is also super personal.
Mm-hmm.
So to force Wesley to not only say to the captain and Troy this incredibly personal and vulnerable aspect of his life, to share that, just like while like they're making him do it. Also, like Worf's there. I don't know how like what his relationship is with like Worf, but like, and Jeremy, like they're not. He's not friends with Jeremy.
Yeah.
So he's now like forced, because what's he going to do? Say no to these people who are asking him these questions? Because this is also a situation of like Wes wants to do what's expected of him, and he's being mature. He's answering the questions of his captain, right? So like he might not have wanted to share any of this stuff, but he's blatantly asked about this stuff. What's he gonna be like, no?
Yeah.
In front of all these people, when like he knows that Jeremy needs his help, but like he's like positioned in this really shitty way. They should have just talked to Wes and been like, I think they shouldn't have, honestly, I don't think they should have bothered Wes again with it. He had the conversation with his mom, and she was like, I think she said to him, you might want to consider talking to Jeremy. And then maybe we have like there should have been like a scene with Wes maybe talking to like somebody else. You know who should have been in this episode? Guinan. He should have had a conversation with Guinan, saying like, talking about, because Guinan seems to be a good sounding board for Wes, and maybe said something of like, you know, it's up to you. I think this could like help this child, but you know, you have to process your grief in your own way, and he needs to, but you can like share your experience. And then when they call him in, be like, could you talk, like, or he volunteers, or he like says, or he's like after speaking to Guinan, be like, you know, Picard, I guess I'll speak to Jeremy if you want me to. So then like a bit earlier on, so then later when they call him in, then he can do it of his own choice. And they should have just left him and Jeremy. What's Jeremy gonna do something to him? No.
Yeah.
So like, because it also felt like Ghost Marla wasn't gonna harm anybody. Yeah. So like, I don't think Wes was in danger with Ghost Marla there. So like, they could have literally just had them have a really nice heartfelt conversation about grief, and you know, Wes explained his experience, but Jeremy's allowed to have his own. But instead they like force it out of Wes.
It seems like the whole episode was really like thrown a curveball by having to deal with the fact that they couldn't use the holodeck thing anymore.
Yeah, that they had to put these dumb aliens in. Because like, here's the thing, you could have here's something I thought of that you could do without changing much of the episode if they wanted to still have all this other bullshit. You literally just have a shot of Wesley sitting on the bridge, like, at his station, and then, like, maybe he makes, like, a determined face or something, and then he like, messages Picard and says, like, Captain, may I come down and speak to Jeremy? He volunteers it. Like, we see him make a decision in his head that's like, I'm going to do this to help the situation.
Yeah, because also this could add to, like, I think Wesley's, like, his grief as well, like this, like in a way of like helping not recover, because that's not the right way to say it, but like work through his grief as well, because I imagine it's not I mean, I haven't lost like my parents or like somebody super 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 close to me, but like I would think I mean, I only have one living grandparent, but my last grandparent who passed was in 2018, and like not 2018, 2008. And like it gets like sort of not necessarily easier, but it's still, you think about it. It's not something that you ever forget. It's not something that you can super move on from. And you shouldn't have to. If it's someone you truly love, they should like be in your head, and, you know, have like memories of them. But I think like if Wesley chose to, you know, speak to Jeremy, then that maybe would have, you know, given him a little bit of levity for his own grief. So instead of him being forced to share all this shit. Not shit. You know what I mean? It's like...
Yeah, it could have been helpful for him, right? And then you have like,
choice.
You know, Wesley chooses to do this, but he's having difficulty. And then you can have Troy help him get the words out and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels very like they forced it out of him, which is unacceptable.
I think what makes the approach you guys are suggesting a little bit difficult is that there is a possibility, not like 100% chance, I'm not sure, but there's a possibility that the reason they went about it the way that they did was because the amount of exposure that everyone else is getting to Jeremy's situation is a lot higher, and all Wesley is getting in terms of exposure to this situation is hearing a little bit about it from the discussion that's happened on the bridge, but he's not privy to everything else that's happening. So it could be that the reason they had Troy force it out of him was because when he was brought down there, he didn't have like the context necessary to know what was going on.
Yeah. And I think the point is like they should have given him the context of what's happening.
But I mean, he knew that they wanted to speak to him because when in his scene with Dr. Crusher, she says that Troy stopped by to see if he'd like speak to Jeremy.
Yeah, but the whole alien thing he didn't really know about.
Yeah.
Oh. But I mean, technically though, like the alien
he didn't
thing
know the
doesn't...
stakes.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't think that changes though.
I think it raises the stakes a little bit because like you have an alien that wants to kidnap this child.
Yes.
But I don't think that changes the stakes in terms of Wesley wanting to speak to him about his grief.
No, but it what do you call it? It gives him precedence to want to bring it up and need to bring it up right then and there because it's quite literally being demanded out of him.
Like it could influence his decision.
Yeah, he didn't have the motivation to do it in a public room with everyone else there before that.
I mean, this still like doesn't feel good because he's still like because there was an alien threat. I don't think he probably felt better. I think he felt like he had to, not because he wanted to. Once again, that's doing something that's like expected. So I don't think like having the threat helped in terms of like.
No. What I'm saying is not that like the way the episode is, the threat like makes it okay. I mean, like if they had told Wesley about the threat before, that might have been a thing that would lead him to decide on his own that he's gonna talk to Jeremy about it.
Oh no, I get that. I just like having, I don't know, I just don't think the alien is a good like thing to because then he, like, if anything, like if he hears the alien, it feels more pressure of him, like he's gonna do it even if he doesn't want to.
Yeah, but I think it's like at least it's still on his terms, and I'm talking about like because the like I don't think they should have the aliens at all, but I'm saying you could have made it better if you still wanted to have all this stupid bullshit. You could have at least made it be more on Wesley's terms.
Very true.
It could have been like he's not like just railroaded and put on the spot. At least mentally he's like, okay, I'm gonna do this, you know?
Yeah.
He has some preparation mentally. But yeah, I agree that like that
because like in the end it's still not him choosing from the start. It's he'd be agreeing because of the stakes.
Yeah.
Which is still like he doesn't want to do that. So it sucks in every capacity, basically.
Yeah.
Because the way they set it up, there isn't a win for Wesley in this, unfortunately.
No,
not at all.
I think Dr. Crusher did the best job of dealing with him, because she's like, at first I felt she was like a little like wasn't taking his feelings into consideration when she was
a little callous about it.
Yeah, she was a little callous about it, but then he's like, I'll think about it. And she just says, okay. Like, she doesn't push it anymore. She's like, okay.
Yeah.
And I think the way I interpreted it was that in that moment she realized she shouldn't be pushing this, and that maybe this is, maybe she didn't think it would be a big deal for Wesley, but she's realizing with how he's talking that, like, oh, okay, you know what? This is probably not a thing he should be pushed on. Mm-hmm. And then they have that great conversation about, like, the day his dad died and stuff. And it was like, I thought that was really sweet. Mm-hmm. I cried, to be honest.
Aww.
I thought it was sweet. And I also, like, ever since my grandparents died, I've been, like, I cry more easily to that kind of thing, just because it is, like, more personal now. And, like, I remember, like, just as a personal example, I remember when my grandmother was the first one to die. And then my grandfather died, like, almost exactly a year later. But when my grandma died, I didn't feel angry about it. Like, I was sad and I, like, was lost, but I didn't feel anger about it, So that's an example of, like, how anger doesn't necessarily have to be part of it. Like, It's not always necessarily part of it, You know what's interesting is the thing that angered me and annoyed me about my grandmother dying was not, like, the death. I wasn't like, oh, I'm so angry she's dead. What happened is that, like, my grandma had some kind of medical emergency. We brought her to the hospital, and then they were like, hey guys, this is it. And then we had to deal with that, and then we very luckily had, like, plenty of time for, like, all the family to come visit and stuff, and all that thing. And it's like, there was a lot of, like, older people and stuff that came and were, like, telling my grandfather, it's like, she's gonna get through this, she's strong.
Oh.
And I never said anything out loud, because people deal with things the way they deal with things, but in my head I was so pissed off, because I'm like, do not give him false hope, like, and do not delude yourself, because this is your chance to say goodbye, and, like, you have to take it now. Like, you have to take the opportunity, and, like, that's what annoyed me about it. I wasn't angry that she was dying. I was kind of annoyed with how people were dealing with it.
Yeah.
Just because I realized in that moment how much of a, I don't want to say realist, but, like, practical person I am. Like, it really showed me, like, the way I deal with it, because I'm like, okay, this is the end, and I have to do and say what I need to do and say right now, because, like, this is it, and I was lucky enough to have the time to do that, so it really annoyed me that people were like, oh no, like, this isn't the end. I'm like, yes, it fucking is. And I know it's I feel callous for being like that, because, like I said, people deal with things how they deal with things, but to me, I'm like, don't look away. Like, you have to fucking deal with this. Like, accept it. And I know that that's unfair, which is why I never said anything. But that's just how I personally felt inside.
That's understandable.
Mm-hmm. With my grandfather, it sucked, because he was in the hospital for a bit. It was like, it wasn't, like, guaranteed. Like, there was still hope he might make it out and stuff, but it was like, it was bad, And luckily he was only in the hospital, like, it wasn't, like, years and years, which I can't imagine doing that. But he was there for, like, 2 weeks, and I basically visited him every day. And one of those days I told my dad, because Dory, we were dealing with the movie at the time.
Oh.
And I'm like, I was telling my dad, I'm not going to come in tomorrow. Like, there's a whole bunch of stuff I have to, like, catch up on and things like that. And that was the day he died. So,
Yep.
like, I mean, I said what I needed to say to him. Like, I always left, like, saying I love you and saying that kind of stuff, like, just in case. But it's still, I did feel guilty for, like, slightly for a bit, being like, oh, the one day I didn't go was when he died. So that was weird to deal with. But I don't feel guilty about that anymore.
That's good. Yeah, so I think I do understand how they're approaching things from like a shared understanding of death, because these are all deaths under essentially the same circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
And I do get why they're assuming it. And of course, death is a very personal thing. Of course, it's going to be different for everyone. But I think there were definitely some simplicities that had to be made for telling a story about this.
Oh, for sure.
I do appreciate how they went about it, and mostly how respectful they were to treating it, because like I personally do not have as much of a connection to it. I have very little experience with death. My grandparents on one side of my family died, and I basically don't know anything about them, really. Like, I met them a few times when I was a kid, and they died when I was one of them died when I was like 7 or 8, so I didn't get that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And the other one died like 6 or 7 years after she had started suffering from Alzheimer's. So her and I weren't even talking anymore because she didn't remember anything about me, and she couldn't have a conversation. She couldn't string together sentences. So like, I had no connection to her, really. And then the other side of my family, my grandparents live all the way out on the other end of the country, so I wouldn't actually see them all that often. So I just don't have that connection to it, because I have a smaller family, and I've been lucky enough that I haven't had friends who've died as well. So I haven't really... I don't know. I guess what I'm saying is that my perspective on this is a little ignorant, and I consider it respectful from that position, but obviously people with more experience would have a very different perspective.
I mean, I thought, like... See, I don't have a problem with their, like, the things they say about it and stuff. I just feel like it's specifically that last scene, the way they handled it, I thought was bad. But I think the other parts of the episode was, like, I felt pretty realistic with how people would feel in general.
Okay, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you do have some connections to death. I mean, you know, you knew your grandparent out west, you know?
Yeah, but I didn't have that much of an emotional connection to it. Like, I didn't really feel that down afterwards. I didn't think about it much because, like, from my perspective, this is a person that I see once every year or two, and we didn't connect that much on an emotional level because we didn't have that much in common to talk about, because we're generations apart in our ages.
Yeah. But
and
did
I what? Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna I'm realizing I shouldn't ask because it's very personal, but
No, go ahead.
Yeah, just tell me if you want this out later, but
Okay.
I was gonna ask of, like, did your dad's feelings about it affect you, though?
No, but the reason for that would be that I wasn't around Dad while he was dealing with this. So I mentioned my grandparents live out on the other end of the country. My grandmother is the only one who's left, and for the entire situation of dealing with my grandfather's death, we knew it was coming. We knew it had been coming for a while, unfortunately. He had been having health problems for quite a while before we decided we're not going to keep doing what we're doing, because it's not getting better, it's getting worse. We have to stop now.
Yeah.
Because he was getting blood transfusions every couple of months, and it wasn't making it better anymore. All it was doing was keeping him going a little bit.
Yeah.
And admittedly, I did go and see them one last time before this happened, before we had decided that was it. And it was difficult to watch him in so much pain all the time and unable to do anything normally and having absolutely no energy at all. That was painful to see. Mm-hmm. But while my dad was dealing with it, he was out there in BC and I was back here in Toronto. So I basically got nothing from him on it because he was out there dealing with not only the entire closeout of the situation, but also all of the aftermath in terms of like putting affairs in order and all of that stuff and making sure that grandma would be okay. So he was there out in BC for months. Mm-hmm. So I didn't see him at all during that time, and I just had mom, and mom doesn't seem to have deep emotional connections to like fucking anyone. So I don't even know in that regard.
Yeah, I guess that's true too. You're separated from it you are separated from it.
Yes. Yeah, completely.
I mean, when my grandfather passed away in 2000, they didn't tell me.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I was at sleepover camp. I was 9, and they full out waited. I was there for 3 weeks. They had the funeral. They did everything. My parents were in Montreal, and when I came back 3 weeks later, they were like, so some news. So they didn't tell me until I got back. So I missed everything. I was at sleepover camp the whole time. And I mean, to be fair, probably wouldn't have gone. My grandfather lived in Montreal. That's where my dad's family's from. So my grandmother was taking care of my brother and my cousins while my parents and my aunts and uncles all went to Montreal. But yeah, full out didn't tell me weeks later. And one of my other cousins, she was also at sleepover camp. So they didn't tell either of us until we got back to Toronto. And that was fun. And then my other grandfather, that was my father's father, but my mom's father, the one who passed away in 2008, that one was a whole other deal because he had Alzheimer's and dementia, and he was 93 years old, and he fell in his apartment, and he hit his head and hemorrhaged and died 2 weeks later.
Oh, geez.
The doctors, they wouldn't give him surgery because he was 93 years old and he was bleeding in his brain, and they were like, he's gonna die. He just, like, this would kill him faster. So we had to sit and visit him in the hospital every day for 2 weeks, literally waiting for him to die. My mom and my aunt had to basically set up his funeral. It was like they just needed to wait for the date, and literally was getting everything in order because we just sat there waiting. We went to visit him. He was conscious some of the time, but he truly had no idea who we were, what was going on.
Yeah, that's kind of like my grandfather. He didn't like while he was in the hospital, he didn't really he wasn't all there, basically. It's fucking hard, man. Like, honestly, when my grandmother died, the most difficult thing for me was less like that she was gone and more seeing my grandfather heartbroken. Like, seeing him suffer was what got me. Like, more, like, I was still sad and broken up that my grandmother died, but it was more so seeing my grandfather in pain that, like, really fucked with me. That's why maybe it's because I'd gone through it already with my grandmother as well, but it felt like it was a bit easier to deal with my grandfather's death. Probably because I'd already gone through it, but also there wasn't, like, such deep suffering. And his health, like, after my grandmother died, his health immediately started declining, which is, like, not an uncommon thing to happen, like, when a spouse dies. The other one just, like, basically loses the will to live, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard those stories of, like, couples dying within hours of each other.
Like I said, he died, like, almost to the day, like, 1 year after my grandmother. Yeah. Sorry to bring all this stuff up. Like, I'm sorry to be a
we're
bummer.
having a real talk, my friends.
Yeah.
This talk is incredibly real, not fake at all, nothing fake about it.
Yeah. And the thing is like, sometimes I feel weird bringing this stuff up because it doesn't bother me anymore. And I feel like I'm, I don't know, like, just, I guess it's like, if you don't know how I feel about it, it can be, like, very, like, to me, this isn't emotional or painful to talk about. It's more like reflective, I guess. So yeah, I just don't want to be like a bummer. I just more want to, I just more, sometimes I like to talk about it to like examine it and reflect on it, less than like, I'm not trying to be a bummer. So maybe that's not healthy. Maybe I'm clinicizing it, but I don't know. I feel like I did the sad part already. I don't know. It's been like I said, I kind of found out that I'm like pretty practical with it. I'm like, well, that's it. You know, they're gone and that's what it is. It happens, you know?
I don't know. I don't think I'm, I don't know. I truly like never know how I'm going to react to anybody's, because there's been like my family in general, like we've had a lot of handful of deaths in the last year, and watched quite a few funerals on YouTube, and do not love that. But I truly, like, I never know what my reaction is going to be until I hear this information. So
actually, now that I think about it, there is one death that like still gets to me. Because my grandparents, I feel I could be practical about that because they were very elderly and it was like, that was kind of their time to go. But there was a guy that I worked with who
I remember this.
Got shot.
Aye.
He got shot and died. And it was a case of mistaken identity. Like, he got shot by gang members because they thought he was someone else.
Aye.
And he was like the nicest fucking guy in the world. And he was born like the same year I was. So he was like my age, you know? And like he was fucking like it's almost funny because he was shot in his car on the way home from Bible study.
Wow.
Like, and you know, whenever someone dies tragically, people are like, oh my god, they were the most incredible person, they were the nicest person ever. But like that was true of this guy. Like he was rest in peace, Johnny Gale. But he was like, he was the nicest fucking dude ever. And he was just like, so like full of life. And like, he didn't deserve it like at all. And that like still fucking gets to me, you know? And I still like, when I search, like, I don't feel angry about it. I'm more just like, what the fuck? Like, why did this... It's less anger and more like...
Why?
Man. Yeah. More like why.
Yeah.
And it's just like, man, what the fuck? Like...
If we want to make it a little lighter in the death category, I've always joked that whether if I get married first or if I die first, whatever happens first or second, I'd like...
You're gonna die, then get married.
Well, what, like, just in case, like, if what happens first, I'd like to... Whatever happens first, I'd like Brick House to be playing. You know, that's like, she's a brick house. So whether that's walking down the aisle or being, like, you know, lowered into the ground, or the other ideal song is the Space Jam theme song.
Yes.
And that's number 2, because I do think it'd be very funny to just have, come on and slam and welcome to the jam, while being lowered into the ground.
Did you see there was a video of this guy in England, I believe, who before he died, he recorded a tape of himself like knocking and being like, help, get me out of here,
Oh my God.
Play, like, while they're lowering the coffin down, or they're putting dirt on the coffin.
Oh my
that
God.
Is something
okay.
I would do, but it's also really fucked up.
Yeah.
I could not do that. I play a weird song, play an inappropriate song, but I don't think I would.
Luckily, everyone at the funeral seemed to appreciate it. Like, this must have been, like, right in line with what this guy does. So.
Oh, fair.
Oh God.
At least his family seemed to get a kick out of it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm definitely more down just to not, hurt everyone that I know for an inappropriate song.
Yeah.
No, inappropriate song.
I get
that's
knocked
the way
down, but I would up and down. You never going to keep me down.
Yeah, I think Brick House is the appropriate song to be lowered into the ground.
I've had different thoughts on it, and like the only firm conclusion I've come to is that I want to be cremated for like honestly for like environmental reasons. Like it's just like there's no, for me, right? Like I don't think anybody's wrong for like wanting to be buried or whatever. For me, I don't want to contribute to like, taking up all that space and stuff. And whatever. I have like other reasons and whatever, but that's the only thing I'm sure about. The more I think about it, the more I think it's like, I don't know if I want any specific wishes at my funeral, because to me, the funeral isn't for me. The funeral is for other people to deal with my death. So I'm like, do whatever you need to do to deal with that. That's kind of the way I view it.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, also, it's like, maybe I should make some, like, have some wishes so that, like, it's like a part of me is involved, and it's like that could be comforting to people as well.
Yeah, I've never thought about whether I want to be cremated or buried, or have you seen the like the suits that are like biodegradable and they look terrifying?
No, I haven't.
Oh my God, Google it. It will traumatize you.
Actually, there's one thing that I'm half considering is like, and this like, I want to be cremated for environmental reasons, and this just goes completely against that. I kind of want to be turned into a diamond.
What? Is that a thing? Is that a thing?
That is a thing. You can
God.
you can get your ashes turned into a diamond.
Why did this just like open my whole world? Oh my God.
Yeah, there are companies that do it, but it takes like so much power and energy to do it.
Whoa. Because like on one hand,
they don't even need all of you. They just need like a scoop.
Oh my God. Ew. Sorry, the idea of just like a scoop of you.
Yeah.
I don't know. I find it's sort of a weird thing, because on one hand, like the idea of being cremated is like I don't exist anymore.
Mm-hmm.
There's no tangible version of me. Like in the ground, there's not that I want anybody to be like looking me up or like touching my body.
Someone will have a place to visit, right?
Yeah. But
or there's some evidence of you left.
Yeah. There's something I think about cremation where just like, I don't know, you're just like, I don't know if I don't think we like keep ashes in homes. I don't think that's something we do. And by we, I mean like my family, my culture, that sort of thing. I don't think we, I don't know. I don't think I know anybody who has their ashes at home.
I have known people, but it wasn't of a family member. It was of like a pet.
Yeah.
Oh,
I know
okay.
a person
Pets,
who
I think a little
has
different.
Has their pet's ashes.
I don't think I know anybody who has anybody's ashes.
Yeah.
That I know of. Like, but.
Yeah, it's definitely not a thing in my family either. But like, I've just come to the conclusion that that's what I want.
I think also, I don't know if it'd be weird to like, I think because like I'm also very detached from death in a different respect, because I've never seen a dead body ever, except on the TV when Pope John Paul II died and they crowd surfed him. Otherwise, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So, cause like we don't do we like, for us, people die, you get them in the ground ASAP. Mm-hmm. We don't do like wakes. We don't have the like viewings. We just like tie them up, get them in. Like we don't.
Yeah.
So like we don't look at the bodies ever. And I don't want to.
My grandparents, we had open caskets for their funerals, and we had like a whole viewing and all that. It's very strange. It's like... Yeah.
I'm sure eventually I'll end up having to go to one to support a friend or something. Mm-hmm. But I'm always just like back of my mind terrified.
Yeah.
Because I don't want like the idea of like, okay, I'm going to see my first dead body. That's a weird thing to like think about. Because I know it's normal for a lot of people. But I can't wrap my head around it. Like the idea of it scares me so much.
Yeah. It's really like... You get sort of used to it, at least with that sort of specific person, you know?
Oh, no.
Like with my grandparents, it took me a good, like, couple hours to work up the nerve to, like, walk up and, like, touch them, you know?
I mean, oh, God. I think also maybe the closest that I've been is mummies at the museums.
Yeah.
But I didn't know the mummies. They also don't look like people, so my brain can trick me into being like, it's fake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you go to like someone, like a different person's funeral or whatever, like you can always support them from afar. You don't have to go up to it.
Yeah, because even like the funerals that I've been to where like just the casket being in the room, that freaks me out. I don't like caskets.
I'm also a little uncomfortable with that stuff. Like I think when the open casket thing with your grandmother, Maggie, and I was invited over to that, I was supremely uncomfortable there. Not only because I was surrounded by people that I don't know and hearing lots of grieving for things that I didn't connect to in the same way, but also the casket there, it made things awkward for me.
Oh, yeah, I bet. No, I don't blame anyone for being awkward around it. Like, it's... Like, everyone else is, like, feeling the same. They're like, what the fuck? And then, like...
Yep.
I mean, that's my grandmother, you know? It's like... You know?
I worry especially with, like, somebody that I know. Like, I don't want that to be the last image I have of them.
Yeah. It depends on how good a job the funeral home does with the makeup. Like, so my grandparents, the funeral home, did an amazing job because a thing that's very common is that they don't look like themselves, like, after they do the makeup and stuff. That's a very common issue. But
do you know what, though? I would almost think that would make me feel better. Because if they looked like themselves and dead, that would be, like, way too close to them. If they looked a bit different, I could imagine it's a different person.
Yeah.
I could convince myself it's not them.
Yeah, for me, I didn't like it because that happened with my friend who got shot. He didn't. So, FYI, he's black, and it seemed very clear to me that they didn't have the right foundation to use on him because he looked very ashy. And there was other aspects of him, like he just didn't look like himself, and that kind of annoyed me. I mean, it doesn't... The thing is like, I wasn't that good friends with him, and, like, sometimes I feel guilty about, like, how bad I feel about it, because it's, like, I wasn't nearly as close to him as, like, other people were at work, and that kind of thing. Like, I didn't even talk to him outside of work. But I can just speak for me. I was not happy that he didn't look like himself. Like, that he, like... At the viewing, it's like everyone's here to, like, say goodbye and pay respects, and, like, you know, we're celebrating him and stuff, and he doesn't look like himself. To me, it seems disrespectful. I know they didn't do it on purpose. Like, you really, like... Sometimes you can't control how the outcome is. You know, sometimes there's only so much you can do. So I'm not, like, personally mad at, like, whoever did that. It just, like... I know... I'm just saying, like, in my experience, that bothered me. But that's not to say that everyone would have that same feeling about it. Like, I could see that being like you were saying, a comfort to some people, just being like, your brain can kind of trick you into like that's somebody else.
Yeah. Oh God, I don't want to.
Yeah, sorry, this episode took like a real bummer turn. But like it's an episode about death. Like I don't know what you expect.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any favorite moments?
Yes.
Yeah, actually.
Yes. My favorite moment was okay, this is a very, very aside. What was up with the cinematography in this episode? There were so many weirdly close-up conversations.
I was gonna say some of the cinematography was like fucking banger. Like, do you remember that moment in between Worf and Troy in the old like computer room thing?
Yeah, the weird.
Holy shit! I don't even want to know how they did the blocking for that because that was some good shit.
And I really like the lighting in that scene.
Yeah, me too.
But I agree with Dory in that it was too many close-ups. Like I think
agreed.
I think like because usually close-ups are used for very intimate and significant moments, which I see why they wanted, like, this is a very serious, intimate episode and stuff like that. So I see why they wanted to use a lot of close-ups and stuff like that, but I think they overdid it.
Yeah,
I agree.
There's just a lot of choices in this episode.
Yeah.
Okay, so my actual favorite part was Riker and Data's conversation. Mm-hmm. Which Riker goes, so Data is like unsure about like because people were asking like how well did you know Marla, and he's like unsure how he should feel because he didn't really know her. Mm-hmm. So Riker goes, do you remember how we all felt when Tasha died? And Data says, I do not sense the same feelings of absence that I associate with you, Lieutenant Yar, although I cannot say precisely why. Then Riker says, just human nature, Data. Then Data goes, human nature, sir? Then Riker goes, we feel the loss more intensely when it's a friend. Then Data goes, but should not the feelings run just as deep regardless of who has died? And then Riker goes, maybe they should, Data. Maybe if we felt any less as keenly as we felt for the death of one close to us, human history would be a lot less bloody. I was like, Riker, wow.
It's pretty on point.
Yeah, sometimes he just like pulls shit out that I'm like, good for you. Good for you. I'm proud of you. I did like Worf and Jeremy's bonding ceremony at the end. It was cute.
That was cute, yeah.
Even though I guess it doesn't go anywhere, but it still was cute. I enjoy Worf being sweet.
Buddy Worf.
I love Worf. Oh, and I did like the conversation between Wes and Dr. C.
I would, I don't have a favorite moment, I don't think, but I would like to give, I wanted to give a shout out to the actor who played Jeremy. Mm-hmm. His name is Gabriel Damon. And there are a multitude of examples throughout Star Trek of child actors being child actors. Most of them are bad. Not every single one of them, but most of them are thoroughly unconvincing. It is very difficult to cast children. I get it. I understand that like a kid cannot put on the same kind of performance. This kid, I think, was 13 at the time of this, mm-hmm. and mad props to him. He nails it. There is no there's no point in the episode. Yeah. There is no point in this episode where I don't believe his performance because of his own performance. I think there was one or two moments where the dialogue was like, but for the most part, the dialogue was also just as convincing, and that is hella fucking impressive for a situation where you're dealing with a child actor and writing a believable child. Star Trek is traditionally bad at both of those.
He looks familiar, and I don't know why, because I truly don't know if I've ever seen him. I'm going to look up his IMDb.
You may have. I can tell you a little bit. He's been in a bunch of things, anything from like fucking RoboCop 2, which nobody fucking watched, to what was the other thing he was in? He was on ER for a while, as an older person, not as a kid. He appeared in a 2-part episode of Punky Brewster in 1985.
I have not seen
if you've
any
ever
of
seen
those.
that.
No, I've never seen ER. I've never watched Punky Brewster.
He's been in a lot of things that people don't know very well. However, you may recognize his voice if you've ever seen The Land Before Time, because he played Littlefoot.
I would not. I've seen it, but I would never recognize his voice.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, fair enough.
I do not remember. Like, I was never much of a big Land Before Time person.
Okay.
So I would not recognize him from there.
He was on Who's the Boss?
Never seen it.
He was on General Hospital.
He looks so familiar, but I have no idea what I would have ever seen him in. I don't know why he looks familiar.
But yeah, I agree. I think his performance is believable in terms of what they asked him to do. Like, I think what they decided to do with that character was not the best and not necessarily the most realistic.
Yeah,
I agree.
But I don't think that's his fault.
I thought in terms of that's not his fault. I think he did a good performance with what he was asked to do.
Oh my god, I know how I know him. I just pulled up his IMDb. Oh my god. I am sorry ahead of time. He was Spot Conlon in Newsies. Oh my god. He's the head of Brooklyn. Oh my god. There's a whole thing of how people are scared of him, and he shows up and I'm like, that's the guy you're all scared of? He's a child. Oh my god, I can't believe he's Spot in Newsies. Like 1992 movie, Newsies, not the like broad. That movie is wild.
Is that movie a musical?
Yes, it absolutely is.
Nice.
All
I know about it is that Christian Bale's in it.
Yes, he plays the main guy. It was not the best casting.
Mm-hmm.
This boy is not. He's like the Pierce Brosnan school of singing. Where like maybe like he's good in the role, but maybe shouldn't have let him sing.
Yeah.
The movie is absolutely fucking wild though. Bill Pullman's in it. Robert Duvall is in it. And he plays William Randolph Hearst, and then like Anne Margaret's in it. It's just like a bunch of these boys in like the turn of the century New York City, the paper boys, and it's about them starting a union.
Yeah.
Nice. Good for them.
But all these like teenage boys are singing and dancing. Songs kind of slap, not gonna lie. Songs kind of slap. But yeah, it's wild, this movie.
Yeah. I just found out that they made a musical about the whole situation that happened in Gander, Newfoundland on 9/11.
Come From Away. Yeah, this is a very famous musical. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing, to be honest.
Oh my god. Yeah, it's down it's been playing in Toronto on and off for a couple of years. And it's won a bunch of Tonys. Yeah, it's been around for a good few years. I think since like 2016, 2017, something like that.
Because I've been since the 20th anniversary, I've been on a weird like 9/11 kick. Like, like I find it a little bit of a sidetrack. I'll try to keep it brief, but I find it I'm very fascinated with 9/11 as a historical event, because it's something I was alive for and have memories of, but like not many. And I wasn't like fully aware of the full scope of things. So I kind of, and of course it's just like a huge mark of like a huge turning point in modern history. So yeah, every once in a while I just get like obsessively fascinated with it and like start looking up footage and news reports, and I'll watch like as it happened sort of things, and like, you know, the air traffic controller broadcasts and that kind of thing. I don't go down the conspiracy hole. I go very carefully avoid that. I'm just more of like interested in the mechanics of what happened and like how people reacted and stuff like that.
I saw TikTok not that long ago that was like, people need to like leave millennials alone. We all watched thousands of people die on September 11th.
And then literally nothing got better. Yeah.
Yeah, we literally watched this trauma because there was nothing else on television. and they just kept showing the footage on repeat for weeks and weeks and weeks.
Yeah.
And we just got to keep watching as airplanes flew into a building, and that was over and over and over and over again. And they're like, let
children.
millennials. Yeah, as children. So, like, let us ruin all the industries at this point.
Yeah.
We're ruining it for a reason. We're all traumatized.
Sometimes I think about, like, the trauma, like, the boomers must have felt, though. Like, because they were adults and, like, fully aware of what was happening. But in general, that generation doesn't deal with that trauma, so they're like...
Yeah.
Anyway, not to get too far off on this. My favorite moment was the Wesley and Dr. Crusher conversation when they're talking about, you know, dealing with Jack Crusher's death. I thought that was, like, just very good and well done. And yeah, I think as previously stated, the conversation between Riker and Data, where, you know, Riker has that line about, like, you know, if we felt every death as keenly as one close to us, then, you know, maybe human history wouldn't be as bloody. Yeah, those were my two favorite things about it.
Very fair.
So with that, we will finally cap off this episode and get into predictions for the next one. So the next episode is called Booby Trap. And your tidbit is that Geordi meets the woman of his dreams.
Oh my god! Okay. Oh my god. Okay. I am very excited. Okay, but wait a minute. Before I, like... Is this going to be a misleading one that I think it's about Geordi, but then it's actually not about Geordi?
It is definitely about Geordi.
Yeah, it's definitely about Geordi. The last episode, it's like we straight up didn't remember that Worf wasn't in it as much. So that wasn't on purpose. Yeah.
Okay, because otherwise I was just going to start thinking every single, like, hint from now on is going to be, like, to fuck me up.
No, that the last hint wasn't, it wasn't on purpose to fuck you up. We just forgot that he wasn't actually in the episode that much.
You said finds the love of his life? What was it?
He meets the woman of his dreams.
Okay, and it's called Booby Trap?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Booby.
Yeah.
I want to be creative with this.
I just realized something fucking awful.
What's that?
What?
The description, Maggie, that we just gave her can technically be used to describe at least 2 further episodes for Geordi in the future.
Aww.
In different ways, and that's what makes it really funny.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay. I have an idea. So they're going to a planet to do some kind of repair or something. And Geordi goes down and with, like, the away team, and they get separated, and he gets stuck in a booby trap, but he then he falls unconscious in the booby trap, and then he thinks that he's, like, woken up, but maybe when he gets caught in the booby trap, there's some kind of, like, tranquilizer or some kind of thing that, like, makes him. So he's, like,
unconscious.
Then he's unconscious, but, like, it maybe it, like, truly knocks him out.
Mm-hmm.
And then he awakens later, and because he's been maybe rescued by this woman who, you know, she's got different stuff going on. Maybe she is trying to prevent whatever it is from being fixed because it, like, maybe she's the one that disabled or broke the piece because it's doing something bad, and, like, Geordi, she's trying to convince Geordi to, like, not fix it or to, like, convince him to come on her side. But in the end, Geordi has dreamt. None of it was real.
Ah.
Geordi dreams it all.
It was all a dream.
or maybe instead of like maybe like she's trying to fix it, and maybe he meets like another, like a super smart another engineer, and they like bond to like a lot, and it's really cute. But then he like wakes up and he realizes, oh shit, I've been in this booby trap for like hours.
Yeah.
And it was all a dream. Because maybe I would think that like when he gets stuck in the booby trap, there's something like, not necessarily like it knocks him out, but maybe there's some kind of like, it's like a 2-step booby trap where like maybe there's some kind of like hallucinogen in there, which is why like he has such like a specific, he feels like it's so real. And then yeah, so I'm going with, it was a dream all along.
Nice. I like that take on it.
Well, Jeff said to like the emphasis on different words, so I think he said he meets his dream girl. So the emphasis in this episode is dream.
Fair enough.
Alrighty. Well, if you'd like to see if Dory's correct, watch along with us and join us for the next episode of Fully Functional, a TNG podcast.
Goodbye.